All right, so something I wanted to talk about today. Last time we played, the guys that we played with, as well as the group in front of us, everybody just defaults to the back tees.
Yeah.
In a group of men. And the way that I grew up playing, that wasn't uncommon, right? We called them the men's tee. So I never really thought about it that deeply. But, you know, now that we have a moment, I kind of want to talk about like what tees should you play from?
You're referring to like our people, the Asian older gentlemen.
The older Korean population of Los Angeles, which is, you know, they're out in force in Southern California golf, which is great to see. But, you know, they, no matter how far they hit the ball, no matter what their skill level is, they go to the furthest back tee there is. You know, and granted, the courses here aren't that long, so you could argue that it's not that detrimental. But when you're driving the ball, you know, 180, 200, you know, you probably shouldn't be playing the furthest back tee that there is.
No. It's pretty detrimental. You know what their explanation is though, right? They want to get the most out of their green fees. They want to get the best bang for their buck. And so the longer the course you play, the more your dollar goes. So I've heard that explanation so many times on why they play from the back, which, yeah, they definitely shouldn't. Well, here in Southern California, we normally have 4 tee boxes. We have the black, which is usually way back. We have the blues, the whites, and then the reds. We normally play the blues. And the blues still make it where you're driving at least 2/3, if not 3/4 of the holes, right? When I was really playing regularly, I would play from the blacks because I drive far enough. I think my driving average is probably like 290, considering my misses. And so sometimes when you play from the blues and when I'm on and I'm hitting like 300-yard drives, it's 60 yards in on the majority of the holes. Like for example, the one that we played recently, Brookside in Pasadena, when my driver is working, I literally have a chip shot in to every single hole. And so that's nice sometimes when I want to score well, but it's also not as fun. Right. And so on a course like Brookside, I want to play from the blacks. But I think most of the time I just play with like what most of the group plays with, because it is a little annoying where you have someone waiting on a different tee box. The social dynamic gets disrupted a little bit. And so most of the time I just like to play with what majority of the guys play. And I think that with our group of friends is the blues. There are times though where I go to a brand new course or I know I haven't practiced in a while where I will play from the whites, where I'm just like, today's just a casual day. I don't want to take things too competitively or seriously. So I'll just play from the whites.
I mean, I agree with you that there's like this social dynamic. And I think that more than anything kind of helps determine for me what tee box we should be playing. Like if the majority of the group, like if it's our normal foursome, right? Or I guess we don't really have a normal foursome. We kind of...
Yep, we just have us.
Yeah. We're rotating people in regularly. But if it's like me, you, Alex, shout out to Alex. Yeah, most of the time we're probably going to play the blues. We don't really go for the blacks just because there's still this weird stigma of you need to be a certain handicap or a certain level. Although nobody in our group is really a short hitter, right? Like we're all averaging, like you average 290 off of the tee, including your mishits. Including my mishits, I'm probably around 275, 280. Right. Alex, this mysterious Alex, is probably also in the 265, 275 range.
But Alex just needs a new driver. He's playing like...
Alex just needs a new driver. If Alex actually got a good driver, he'd probably hit it further than me. He's young and athletic, so really his equipment is his own excuse. We could all probably play from blacks, and it wouldn't hurt us from a timing perspective. I don't think it would hurt anybody from a scoring perspective. So I guess from that perspective, the question is, why don't we do that, right? Because to your point, you know, at Brookside when we played, there was a few holes where, like, there was one that I just drove the green. It was a shorter hole, but there was maybe like 2 or 3 others where it was realistic that we were going to drive the green from the tee box that we were playing from. That's fun, but if you look at the kind of average of holes that you're playing, to your point, I don't want chip shots in. I still want to play like, a mid to short iron in on most of these holes.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe that's me being greedy or selfish or whatever, but that to me feels like the right way to play golf, even though there's no quote unquote right way to play golf. But if we go by that, I guess I'm kind of advocating for you should play the tee box based off of your distance.
That is the signage that I see a lot on the golf courses today, right? Like how far do you hit your 7-iron? And then based on that, they recommend the tee box that you should play. We rarely see those type of recommendations, but in the ones that I've seen, I think it's based off your 7-iron.
Interesting. And what are the 7-iron distances?
I think it is if you hit 175 or over, they recommend you play from the blacks. And if you hit like 165 to 175, you play from the blues, which is what we play. And then it's like 150 to like 165, you play from the whites. And then anything shorter, you play from the reds.
I mean, according to those distances, I guess we should be playing from the blacks, right? Or the backs or the tips, whatever you want to call them. Because what's your 7-iron's like what, 180, 185?
Because remember, I've been swinging a little bit softer these days.
Yeah.
So I've lost a little bit of yardage. So my 7-iron's been going like 175, 182.
But even at that point, based off of what people are saying, the correct, quote unquote, correct box to play from is, you should still be playing from the tips.
I guess so. But the reason I think we don't play from the tips is because most of the people we play with can't play from the tips. And I know earlier you said you don't think it's going to change how long we play or the score, but I think it would change, especially with the people we play with. I would argue it's probably, they're going to score like at least like 6 to 10 strokes worse by playing the black.
Because they're so far away from hitting their 7-iron 180, 175, or because of a different reason?
Because our tee shots are not that accurate. And so because of that, that second shot is going to be even longer, but from a challenging position.
Right.
And when you look at the black tees, you have to be driving, 285 plus for it to land in a safe zone. If you're hitting shorter than that, you're borderline playing like par 5, but in a par 4 score, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, because I think for most amateurs, their ability to hit that second shot, whatever the distance is, let's call it like a 160, 70 to like 220. Like, what are they hitting for that range? That's probably going to be the biggest determination of whether or not they're comfortable or what tee box they're comfortable playing from. Therefore, what length course they're playing from. Right? Because now that I think about it, there's definitely some friends that we have where they could probably hang in terms of like, they'll hit decent drives. Right. It'll maybe be in the 250 range. Maybe the next shot in is like 190 to 200, and they're pulling out like a 3-wood, right? Like they just, there's a big gap from their driver to everything else, or they just don't have the ability to have that like high 100s, low 200s consistent shot in their bag, so everything that they're playing after their tee shot is some kind of a long club, which it's no fun if you do it that way either. Whereas for us, it's like, 190, cool. That's still a mid-iron, right? Like I didn't really think about it from that perspective, but yeah, I guess that would really change the score and I guess how much fun you're having when you're playing.
Yeah. Yeah. And, usually we're playing for something when we play with our friends where, we don't bet, $20 a hole or anything like that, but we do play for like lunch. And so I could see them objecting to us playing from the black tees if something was on the line.
Yeah.
Because especially for me, I feel like if my driver is on, I would have definitely a huge advantage over the other guys. Right. If my driver is on, but.
So then social aspect aside, I think everybody who plays golf acknowledges like if everybody's playing from a different tee box, it kind of kills the time, right? It takes you significantly longer just to get everybody's drives out there.
That really, I think, kills the time. Whenever we play, and not to be sexist, but whenever we play with women who tee off from the women's tee box, we tee off first. They're waiting by their tee box, but still there's that additional like transition time for them to now go through their warm up, get ready, hit their shot. And so I think that easily adds like a couple minutes per hole when we have people playing in different tee boxes.
I agree. I'm kind of just wondering, like, what else can you do to help speed that up? Is there a way to do that?
I think that's why we have to we create the games format based on who's playing. Because it's definitely not fun to have one person teeing off someone on a different tee box. So that's why we do a format where their drives might not have to count, or we give them like extra strokes on the holes where it's longer for them. We know how far some people hit. And so on like the longest holes, like I would give an extra stroke, right? So I think those are ways that we've managed to play in the same tee box and still keep it competitive. But yeah, it's definitely not fun when, one person or like half the group is playing from a different tee box.
Yeah.
And that probably plays into it, right? Why people don't play in their right tee boxes. I actually just pulled up an image of Rio Hondo, which is another golf course that we used to play quite a bit during the pandemic. They recommend tees by score. So, and theirs is pretty strict. Like based on their score, we should actually be playing for the whites, because if you score 80 or under, so you're shooting in the singles, then you should play from the blues, which is actually their furthest back. And we play from their blues. And then 81 to 90 is white, 91 to 100 is gold, and then 100 plus you should be playing in the reds. So based on that, we should be playing from the whites. But from a distance perspective, like if my driver is on, I have a 56-degree chip shot in to most of the holes. So yeah, I don't love the recommended tees by score format, because if we were to follow it to a tee, then I think for a long hitter on a day that he's on, it would definitely be not fun.
And for Rio, that one obnoxiously long par 3 that they have, right? Like that's the only real challenging hole.
225-yard par 3.
Yeah. It's funny. We've never even considered playing from anything other than the blues at that course. If anything, yeah, maybe it'll make us a stroke better, but pragmatically, all it does is it makes us wait until they're off of the green for sure before we hit our shots, because now we know we're definitely going to get it onto the green.
Yeah. So I was going to say, if we play from the whites at Rio, it would do two things. Number one, it would slow down the pace because there are a lot of drivable holes. So we would have to wait for them to clear the green before we can hit our driver, or we would essentially have to leave our driver in the car. Like other than the par 5s, we wouldn't use the driver. We would probably have to use our 3-wood if we want to keep up with pace. And if that's the case, then it definitely changes the course as well, because you are purposely hitting short just to keep pace. And I don't know. I don't love doing that.
No, it's less fun, right? Like half the fun is like, pounding a drive out there, seeing how far you can hit it and still get it in play. And then, seeing what happens after that. But I'd say,
although some people might argue like, hey, like, why is that necessarily bad? Right? It's good course management. You are getting what you kind of want. If you hit your 3-wood, you still have a pitching wedge 9-iron in. And so you're essentially creating the environment that you just talked about, wanting the game to be fun and not having a wedge in every single time. So some of our listeners might be like, why are you complaining about this? This is what you just said you wanted.
Sorry. Caveat, asterisk, I want a mid to short iron in while bombing my driver.
Yes. Yes.
That. And realistically, I think for us, as well as our longer hitters out there, that's kind of a thing, right? Because we'll complain about certain courses where, you only can drive 4 or 5 times because, there's either so many dog legs or it's shorter or whatever. We've played courses like that. They're just no fun. They're just less fun, right? For some reason. Maybe it's just where we are with our games, but I think the ability to hit bombs, then hit good shots in, and put together a respectable score, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, because the golf course that we play when we can't find a tee time nearby is Sand Canyon Country Club, and that's in Santa Clarita. On that course, I use my driver 3 times. That's why I always complain to you that I don't want to play here, because I don't get to use, number one, I don't get to use my strength, and the distance advantage that I have, which I worked very hard for, suddenly goes out the window. And yeah, I've never really scored all that well there. And then when I do pull out the driver for like those 2-3 holes, I feel like because I haven't used it all day, it's so foreign. And so I end up not hitting the driver that well. So yeah, I don't love that course.
Right. So I guess we're saying is like the old men's, seniors, women's, juniors, like that paradigm is just out, even though traditionally that's how I learned how the tee boxes were. I don't know that this whole...
I've never even heard that way since I started playing golf.
Oh, wait. So when you started playing golf, you didn't know it as the men's tee?
No.
Oh.
Like they never called it. That's why earlier when you were like men's tee, I was like, what do you mean men's tee? Maybe it's like is it an East Coast thing?
No, that's a golf thing. That's just how it always. That's just how I always knew it. That's how I was introduced to the game.
I don't think they even label the tees here. Like obviously, like the nicer courses, when we go to like Palm Springs, they have like the black or like the gold. They'll be like, oh, this is a champion's tee. Yeah. This is where the best players should play. And then there's like the players' tee. I actually don't even know what the white and the reds are called.
The men's tee. So the course that I played the most when I started playing, it was, I don't know if I said this at the beginning, but I'm going to say it again just in case, right? There was a red tee. That's the women's tee or the juniors tee. Sometimes there was like an orange tee box, like in the middle of the fairway. That's an extra juniors tee for like the little kids. There's a white tee. That was the senior tee. There was gold or yellow, whatever you want to call it. That was the standard men's tee. And then there was blue and sometimes black. Black was like professional tips. And then blue was like the better men's tee. So the players, whatever you want to call it. And I think the yardage difference ends up over the 18 is like 200-300 yards difference, something like that for between each tee, which is a lot if you think about it. It's like an extra club almost on every hole from an approach standpoint. But yeah, for us, it was always just there's the men's tee. And so it's like if you're a dude, you go play the men's tee. My mom would be like, cool, there's the red one. That's where I'm going to go play. To see you later. And I think once my dad hit like 60, he was like, seniors tee. That's where I play from. You know, so it's like for us, there was never a question of distance or skill or anything like that. It was just, this is the tee that you play from. And so it's just interesting hearing, like, for me, it's the way I heard about all of these other methods, right? Like you said, there's the how far do you hit your 7-iron? Although I've never seen that sign myself. But I've heard about like, what is your driving distance or what is your handicap? Like you said, it's all in an attempt to make it more quote unquote fun and or realistic and or shorten the time it takes to play, which honestly, I don't really think any of those things get accomplished en masse, right? As a blanket rule for everybody, but it's just interesting, like what are other people doing in terms of choosing their tee boxes?
By the way, that terminology is not very PC. Maybe it got changed during the PC era because it's very antiquated way of calling the tee boxes.
Listen, if you're talking to like a traditionalist with golf, like there's a lot of things about this that are not PC.
Maybe it's also because we live in California, but like I've never heard anyone call it the men's tee or the women's tee.
Okay, maybe that is an East Coast thing.
Yeah. So, are you okay then with the way that we play? Or do you think we should be playing it differently? Because for us, it's just, we don't even think. Like we don't play from the longest usually. We immediately go to the blue tees in almost all the courses that we play. There was one time where I played in the last 3 months where two of the guys were just like, and they're our friends, and they were like, hey, we're going to just play from the whites because we're not as good as you guys and we just want to have fun. And I was like perfectly fine with that. And I was even like, do you want me to join you guys? And he's like, no. Like you hit from the blues. And it kind of worked out because later we did play a little competitive, like 9 holes at the end. And so that ended up working out for us. But normally, like I'm just going to play where I'm going to play. And if anyone wants to play elsewhere, like that doesn't really affect me. Again, other than the social aspect. But do you think we should change anything?
No, I guess not. Ultimately, just like you said, I'm going to play where I want to play from. And so everybody else in the group should feel very comfortable doing the same. Like you play where you want to play from. I would say the only thing, now that we've talked about it, that I would consider is maybe you and I should try playing from the back tees more. You know, probably don't hit it as far as we used to, but if the cutoff is 175 on your 7-iron, then we're pretty much there. We should try hitting it from the back, see what it does for our scoring. I would argue for me, it might actually make me better just because it might take some wedges out of my hands.
So there's this last way that some people play. Basically, the rule is take most of the par threes that you play on a course. So it doesn't matter the tee box color. It's you look at the par threes. If you are hitting 6-iron distance from one of the tee boxes, that's the tee box you should play from. On par 4s, you should be hitting driver and 6 to 8 iron between there, and that is a perfect distance. On par 5s, driver, fairway wood, and then 9er pitching wedge. And that is your perfect. So they don't play the same tee box every hole. They base it based on this rule. And it's kind of like a hybrid thing where they will pick and choose which tee box to play from each hole. And they actually will label it on each hole, like which tee box they play from. What do you think of that?
I feel like I don't know how to describe how I feel about this. On one hand, I'm very curious. Like, I kind of want to try this.
Mm-hmm.
If it means you're hitting, like, literally, this is what I want. Hit driver, mid to short iron on all the par 4s. But I feel like if you're changing your tee box every single time, you're kind of taking away some of the defense that they built into the course. Meaning, some holes they'll intentionally play longer and then make up for it by playing shorter on some other holes, right? So there's some variance in how the course gets played. And depending on the day, like if you play the same course again and again and again, and they're moving the tee boxes around like they should be, right? The course, each individual hole could actually play very differently depending on where the tee box is, right? And where the flag stick, where the flag is cut. I feel like you're taking some of that out of the equation. Yeah. So you're playing more like just a routine versus you're playing the course as the course is intended to be played because of the setup. I don't know if that makes sense, but for me, something about that feels a little weird.
I kind of felt awkward about it as well when I was first reading about it. And the reason that I don't love it is because then you're essentially just gearing to play driver, mid-iron and everything. And I think that's boring. Like it takes away like the creativity of golf.
Right.
And some of the arguments that I have like read, one of the guys is like, well, there are some holes where no matter what, if you hit driver, like you have a pitching wedge in. If it's like, like a 325 hole, right? And so you're not hitting driver 6-iron, but he's just saying that on the longer holes, you should play in the tee boxes where it's driver 6-iron. Yeah, again, I don't love if it feels too rigid and like calculated and there's no creativity. So because of that, like I'm not a huge fan of that. But yeah. I was surprised how many comments said that they play that way, especially competitively.
That's weird. I've never come across somebody that plays that way.
Yeah,
and we've played with a lot of randos.
I mean, I don't think you would play that way if you're playing with a bunch of random people, but it sounded like they have like their own like leagues, like not formal leagues, but like 8 friends get together and play a league.
Yeah.
They play it this way.
Maybe we should try this just once. One round.
Yeah, maybe just once.
Knowing us, we're going to get to like the third hole and be like, forget it. Like, we're not doing this. We're not doing this anymore.
This is stupid. By the way, if this is your first time here, welcome to the Off TRAQ Podcast, where we talk all things golf from an amateur point of view. I'm Charles. That's Roy. We're 2 golf-obsessed tech guys, and we're currently working on our own golf startup. Make sure to follow us wherever you podcast. Okay, maybe not everywhere, but YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcast, as well as our socials at TRAQ Golf, TRAQ Golf on Instagram and TikTok. We would really appreciate your support. All right, Roy. So if you could steal any golfer's game, driver, irons, wedge, or putter, who are you taking and what skill are you taking? So basically, imagine you wake up tomorrow and suddenly you have like Rory's driving skills, or you have like Colin Morikawa's irons, right? But you can do that with driving, irons, wedges, and putting. Which one would you choose to maximize your score tomorrow versus me?
I can only pick one part of it.
Yeah.
And then I'd have to pick a pro.
Yeah. Do you remember? I mean, this is our era, but you remember Space Jam, right?
Yeah.
Where the aliens went in and sucked out the talent. So it's that situation. We get to send a parasite to a golfer, but you steal one aspect of their game and you get that yourself.
And we're talking Michael Jordan Space Jam, not LeBron Space Jam.
Yes. You watched LeBron Space Jam?
No, absolutely not. Okay, this is the cop-out answer. So I'm going to
Yeah.
say this is not the real answer. But obviously it's vintage Tiger, vintage Tiger, vintage Tiger, vintage Tiger. 2001 Tiger, right? Across all of them. Joking aside, I think for me, it's got to be the short game.
Mm.
You know, you know me. Like my driving when it's on, it's like zero problem with it. Fairly respectable. Even when it's off, most of the time I'm getting away with my drives. My irons, again, a little streaky, but for the most part, you know, I'm comfortable with where I am with them. My putting, as long as I aim, and you know, weirdly enough, I forget to do that a lot, but as long as I aim, it's not terrible. But the short game is the thing that I feel like just ruins my score more often than not. So I'd have to pick short game. The question is, who do I take?
Yeah, so let's take Tiger out, because I think Tiger is the answer for just about everything.
Yeah.
I mean, let's do this real quick. Let's take like each category, and let's talk who you think is the best in that category. Driving is the one category where I have someone that I would place over Tiger, and that's Rory.
Oh, you would take Rory's driving.
Because Tiger in today's standards wasn't the longest hitter or the most accurate hitter. His driver was actually kind of erratic at times. Yeah.
If you go by today's standard though, if you go by Tiger against his peers, right? So like 25 years ago.
No, but you're stealing their talent to apply today to your game.
I see. Okay. Yeah. So it's like if I take vintage Tiger's driving, it's that versus today. Okay.
Yes.
That's fair. Okay. And against his peer group, he was still outdriving his peer group by a lot.
Yeah. But if we put that stat in the modern PGA Tour, he would not be a top 10 driver.
Fair.
And also let's just consider that we're obviously not playing tour level courses and their distances. So we're just injecting their game into our like typical courses that we play, just to simplify things a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. I'll give you Rory then. I'll give you Rory on the drives.
For the driver. Because the only other name, well, two other names, it's obviously Rory, Bryson. Who would be a third?
There was that few years, what was it, in like the late 2000 teens, where DJ's driver was like,
oh yeah,
ridiculously good. Right? He was winning a lot. I think this year was the first year that they said he didn't win anything. It's like an 11-year streak or something that finally got broken.
Dude, I think, this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think Liv is not good for DJ. He is just too chill with all that piles of cash and playing 3 rounds and not caring as much. Like this last season, he was not very good at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, he hasn't really been in the news or like a contender in the majors for a really long time.
I think he's missed a lot of cuts.
Yeah. But if you go back pre-Liv, his driver was really good.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
I would have taken his driver from back then. Is there anyone else? No, I think Rory. I think you're right. I think Rory's driver is the best out there.
You know who is actually kind of a cop-out answer today? Is Scottie Scheffler. Scottie Scheffler, low-key, is good at all 4 phases, statistically as well. His driver is not the farthest, but he's, I think, one of the straightest drivers. Yeah. And so I think, would you put him in that third category as of right now? It's like Rory, Bryson, and Scottie? Because John Rahm is kind of up there too, right, with his driver?
Yeah, but I think Scottie's a little, I don't know their stats, but my gut feel is that I think Scottie's a little bit more consistent with fairways hit.
Yeah, but definitely not the longest though.
No, definitely not the longest. Are we going purely on distance? Because if it's just consistency and relative length, then Nelly.
No, but distance-wise, like you would have to incorporate the distance into it.
I mean, she still hits it as far as I do. So I actually, if I take Nelly's driving, like it's my driving distance, but like way more accurate.
Yeah, but then you would still have your short game.
Oh yeah, no. No, so I'm still taking my short game. I'm still replacing my short game. But if we're going back to like who had the best drive.
Oh, but see, this is the thing about, okay, again, I'm like bordering like the sensitive topic, but this is going back to like men and women in sports. I don't think you can compare the best women with like a top 10 male in that same sport, because the distance by itself is such a killer that Nelly, with all her accuracy, is still going to be hitting 50 yards shorter
than the top
5 drivers.
Yeah.
And so when we're naming like the top 3, like it's so hard for me to put any LPGA golfers like in that top 3 list.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. Just, and especially on the driver, right? So if you take the distance out, that's half of the equation right there.
Right.
But yeah, I would agree with you though. Rory, maybe DJ, Scotty. I'm trying to think if anybody else is coming to mind, but there's nobody else that's like that impressive and that known for their driving. No, I can't think of anybody that I would take over Rory's driving.
Rory, and I know some people will argue Bryson, but if you look at their stats, Rory's a clear winner.
Yeah.
With the driver. All right, then what about for irons? Whose irons game do you think is like the top 3 that you would potentially consider stealing today?
I feel like just like we took vintage Tiger out of the equation, we have to take modern Scotty out of the equation.
Yeah.
Because Scott, now that I'm thinking about it, like I would probably take Scotty for most of these, right? Yeah. He's just so consistent across the board that he comes up for he's winning so much.
I was just thinking the same thing. I was like, if you look at putting, wedges, and irons, my number 1 would be Scotty on all 3.
Yeah. So let's do that. Vintage Tiger's out. Modern Scotty is out. Right? So you can only take somebody else other than that. I might take Colin Morikawa.
Yeah. Colin is a very solid choice.
He's usually up there, I think, in strokes gained on the approach shot.
Yeah.
What year was the U.S. Open in LA when we went?
It doesn't say it on the flag.
but when was that?
It was 23. 23.
Right. Okay. So when you and I were there, we followed around Colin for a while, right? And watched him play. It's such a solid player. Almost boring with how he plays, right? It's like everything is straight, consistent, nothing particularly wow about the way that he plays, nothing particularly flashy, but in a good way, you could argue. I might throw like old school Adam Scott in there for irons because he was very consistent back then. But other than that, I don't know who else. Again, it's like everybody is, pretty good. I don't know who's particularly good at their irons versus anything else.
Okay, so I don't know their games as well, but maybe being the traditionalist, you would. How does Ben Hogan and like Lee Trevino, Jack Nicklaus, how was their iron game and how would they do in the modern game today?
Jack Nicklaus for sure. I used to watch a lot of like replays and things like that. For Jack, I think it was like his ability to just, and again, I wasn't around when, Jack was in his prime, or I wasn't watching golf when Jack was in his prime. But I think it was a lot of the way that we think about prime Tiger is the way that a lot of people thought about Jack, in the sense that he was particularly long for his era. And there was a lot of like creativity with the shots that he could hit. Long irons, mid irons, wedges, things like that. I think Lee Trevino was known as an amazing ball striker and control, right? So I remember he was a little older on age, so not when he was in his prime, but I would watch the Golf Channel a lot. And with Lee Trevino, a lot of it was like he grew up playing in Texas and there's a lot of winds and flat courses. So controlling like trajectory and being able to do different things with your irons, like that was a big part of his game. So I think he would be up there, right? He's one of the greats. To say, if we're going back a little bit, then I think Jim Furyk, for as unconventional, let's call it, as his swing is, like there was just a consistency to his irons in particular that I think was really, really good. Right? And this was, I think, when I was like really starting to get into golf.
Yeah. When I was getting into golf, late 2000s, right? people used to say that Sergio's iron game was maybe as good, if not slightly better than taking out the mind, right?
Yeah.
Just the impact itself and the consistency. A lot of people said Sergio was up there.
Yeah. I mean, I think he was. I remember when it was always like Sergio and Tiger, and Sergio was always up there in conversation as one of the best in the world. He just wasn't a finisher. He couldn't clinch. And a lot of it, I think was mental game. For me, in the modern game with the modern players that we see now, I think I would take Collins.
A few other names that I think are interesting for irons. Hideki is actually statistically one of the best iron players. And I might take his swing over Collins.
Pause and all? Pause and everything?
He got rid of that pause.
I haven't watched him in a while, I guess.
Yeah, he got rid of that pause. And another name that comes up a lot for their irons is Victor Hovland. He's a little streaky, but his ball striking when he's on, I think is better than Collins.
Yeah.
And also the way that he's playing right now, I actually think Rory's iron game is very underrated. I don't know if you saw it, but the Masters finally released last year's Master mini movie. It just came out this week, so I saw it. Some of the iron shots that Rory did is kind of Tiger-esque. I don't know if you remember, but in the final round, he had to shoot this crazy hook around the tree to get it onto the green, and he missed the putt, like typical Rory fashion. I was like, man, the last time I've seen someone be artistic like that was Tiger, and Rory was on point with his irons. His approach, his wedges, as well as his putter hurts him. But when it comes to driver and even irons, I might take Rory. All right, now wedges. Whose wedge game do you take?
This might be a very unpopular opinion, but vintage Jordan Spieth.
Oh, yes.
Why
is that an unpopular take?
Because I feel like there was such a short time frame.
Yeah, it was like 2 years.
It was so short, right? It was a few years. It was like his rookie year to like maybe 4 or 5 years afterwards, where I feel like he was always coming up with some ridiculous save or some crazy shot on like the 72nd hole, or like the first win he had, which was like the John Deere. And I think that's unpopular because I feel like the answer should be Phil Mickelson, just because he was known for his short game, right? Like that was, if Tiger, again, we're taking Tiger out of the picture, because Tiger's known for everything. But it was like, there was Phil, there was Seve Ballesteros. He was probably one of the greatest wedge players. Actually, I may take Seve. No. I don't know enough about his game, right? Like you said, everything I know about Seve Ballesteros was like highlights.
Yeah.
But I remember a point where watching Prime Jordan, you almost knew he was going to do something crazy, miraculous, and get away with it, right? Like that's how often he was doing it. I would take that level of touch.
I also am a fan of Justin Thomas's short game, not in the last 2-3 years. It's kind of weird that Justin Thomas also kind of peaked early. Yeah. Because when he was kind of going head to head with Jordan Spieth, like his short game was on too. I feel like I want to say it was from like 2016 to like 2021, 2022. Like, I think it's so sad that was like his peak in my mind. And he's still a very, very young guy. And another guy who I would also take his putting, and no one talks about him anymore, is Cameron Smith. Cameron Smith, before he jumped to live, everyone was afraid of his putting and his short game. I think it was the British Open where everyone wanted Rory to win, and Cameron Smith just could not miss his putts. And I think this was the year before he jumped to live. So that was already 4 years ago. And so I feel like a lot of people forgot about him because he's at live. But yeah, Cameron Smith's wedge game is, I think, elite.
Yeah, I haven't thought about him since he went to live.
Yeah. And then, is there anyone like that stands out putting wise? Like for me, it's still Cameron Smith on the putter as well. But is there anyone that you would potentially take their putting stroke?
Brad Faxon. He's one of the greats, right? Probably outside of Tiger and Jack. And I guess that's the interesting thing. All of the greats, in some way, shape, or form, were amazing putters. Because, everyone talks about Tiger's driving, Tiger's creativity with the iron. But really, like, what won Tiger all of those championships, it was his putting. He would just make those ridiculous putts. Same with Jack. Jack was putting lights out as much as he had the distance and whatever over everybody. But I think in terms of like somebody just known for putting, I think it has to be Brad Faxon. Is there anybody else? I think Tommy Fleetwood has a pretty good putting. Pretty good at putting.
Tommy Fleetwood, I forgot about him, but he would actually be one of my wedge choices.
Hey, he's pretty good all around.
But I think if you had to pick, I think he won. He finally won.
He finally won, right? But like that's like the that's his legacy up until now, right? It's like the perennial second place. But
you know how TaylorMade has all their pros get together and they shoot like content together?
Yeah.
When it comes to wedges, there's no one on the TaylorMade team that is all that confident over Tommy. Even Colin, like short irons, yes. But when it comes to wedges, they all kind of talk about Tommy like he's the best in the group.
Interesting.
Which is crazy because Scotty's there too.
Right. I would, this is hard. I know I said prime Jordan, and then I feel like the answer should be Phil. I just don't like Phil.
Same.
Maybe that's what it is.
Plus, we can't steal his talents because he's a lefty.
That's true. Yeah, maybe I would take Tommy.
For putting?
For putting. Or Brad Faxon.
It's crazy that when it comes to putting, prime Jordan Spieth comes into mind too.
Yeah.
He comes into mind for me. It's Cameron Smith. And this is like so crazy, but take out, like, it's not even prime of this person, but just majors. In the majors, Brooks Koepka was like, he was like the Terminator. Everyone, I think, for the first time, like, when did he win all those majors? He had like a 2-3 year window, right?
Yeah.
But during that window, I've heard people feared Brooks Koepka like they feared Tiger in Tiger's prime. Unfortunately, it only lasted like 2-3 years, but during that era, and it's so funny because he would play in a regular tour tournament the week before and he would suck. And then it's the majors. And then he would suddenly, like, his strokes gained on putting would skyrocket. So majors Brooks Koepka maybe.
Majors Brooks Koepka. That's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, I know exactly what era you're talking about because it was like he would just come out of nowhere, like just having a regular season and then all of a sudden just on the majors he would peak.
So then now going back to our original question, if we can replace one aspect of our game with one of these greats, what would improve our chances of beating each other the most?
For me, it's still definitely short game. 120 yards and in. I'm going to stick with prime Jordan. That few years of like rookie Jordan and the few years following.
Okay.
Even though I feel like that's the wrong answer. I don't know why. I feel like that's just the wrong answer. I feel like I could pick better than that. But something about that era is just so memorable for me that I would stick with it just from a nostalgia standpoint. But I also really liked his game. So I think I'm gonna stick with that answer. What about you?
I think I am taking their iron game. And my first answer was gonna be Tiger, 2000s Tiger. But we said we can't do that. Yep. My second choice was going to be modern day Scotty Scheffler.
Yeah.
But then you said we can't do that.
Can't do that.
I might just take Rory's iron game. He's not statistically the best, but I mean he's still up there. I don't know why. Maybe it's because, like you said earlier, he's just boringly good. But I don't want Colin's game. I still want the distance. I want to be able to say, oh, I'm going to hit my 8 iron from 170 out.
Yeah.
And there, because Rory is about a club stronger than Colin. Mm-hmm. And I don't know why, but in my mind, whenever you're hitting a lower club, I just feel like you can hit it a little bit more accurately. And so it's a psychological thing. So because of that, I think I might just still take Rory. I'm a huge Rory fan. And I know a lot of people don't like him, but I love Rory. We're the same height. and our similarities end there. But I love Rory. So I'm going to take Rory's iron game. And I will tell you why I think you made the wrong choice. Because let's say that our driver is roughly even on a round, right?
Yeah.
So we're hitting maybe 5 shots into the fairway, and then everything else are kind of misses. You have to save yourself and try to get green in regulation on the other 13 holes, right?
Yep.
I have Rory to do that for me on the next 13 holes.
Yep.
So it's Rory to get in green in regulation versus Roy to get to green in regulation. And I think that would give me more birdie opportunities just based on that decision. Because if Roy is hitting his iron in, and then if you have Jordan saving you, sure, he might maybe make a few of those, but he didn't make all of them. Maybe he'll make one, right? So you're still playing for par, whereas I'm playing for birdie. So I think I win if this is the scenario that plays out.
Fair. I think I can get close enough on those shots where maybe I'm not getting a green in regulation, but I'm getting close enough where Jordan's short game is guaranteeing me at least an up and down. He's not sinking everything, right?
You have a tap in par.
So, yeah, I have tap in pars.
Whereas you're betting that I 3-putt and have a few bogeys.
I'm not saying you're 3-putting. I'm just saying, even with Rory's game, he's not going to hit every single green in regulation either.
That's true.
Right? Do I think realistically you have the advantage going into the green? Yes. I acknowledge your point. I do think that there's a little bit of an advantage there. But I'm trying to fix where I am so disadvantaged, right? Where it's like, if we're sticking with my short game, that is such a liability for me right now that I know I'm losing if I keep my short game. Even if, like, let's say I had Rory's approach shots, he's still going to miss a few. And on those few that he misses, my short game will be so bad that I'm going to eat a disproportionate amount of strokes there. Because I'm assuming we're playing stroke play, right? So that's where even then I will take my iron game, know that I will miss more greens than Rory playing your irons for you, but rely on the salvation of Jordan's touch to try to at least save my pars.
I think this might be a fun content to play this out on an actual round where we will take the statistics. Like for example, I'm looking at like Rory's stats from like 100 to 150 in on average. He's hitting it 18 feet from the hole, right? Ooh. And so you take those type of stats and we'll still hit our shots, but maybe we won't have our shots count. And instead we get to just place it somewhere on the green and see who will actually win a round.
Right. Like if we go look at like prime Jordan distance from hole on his chips, anything 100 yards and in, that would actually be pretty fun. That would be interesting.
Because, this same argument just played out at the Internet Invitational because they kind of have like that superhero, Brad Dahlke, who was either driving or he was saving his team. I mean, the match ended up being pretty close. Yeah. But some of those, he got it within like 3 feet for like to save par and things like that. So I think it would be a fun little exercise or fun little content that we can shoot where we do something like this.
We're going to have to figure out how to play this one.
Yeah.
I'm in.
All right. A quick shout out to the people who make this whole podcast possible. This episode is brought to you by TRAQ, the training system Roy and I are building to help golfers finally practice like the pros. With TRAQ Spray, you get to see exact strike patterns instantly on turf or grass. And with the blueprint, you can actually structure every session instead of just raking balls. It's simple. Stop guessing, start improving. If you want to support the pod and level up your game, check out traqgolf.com. That's TRAQ golf.com. Pre-orders are open and we've already got a waitlist forming. All right, back to the show.
So I wanted to ask, how do you feel about TopGolf?
Ooh, I don't go that often. It's fun when I do, but I don't necessarily want to go all the time. It's funny. My wife, Julie, asked me a couple weeks ago. She was like, hey, for your birthday this year, should we do something at TopGolf? And I was like, no, I'd rather just go out and play a round. It's, I don't know, like it's golf, but it's not golf. It's
Right.
like it's an elevated driving range. And I can see the appeal for non-golfers or people that are not as good as golf. So for example, my wife, she will go and she will roll everything into the hole. And so she still gets her points and she's still having fun because she's scoring. And it also doesn't matter if you aim wrong because it'll end up funneling into a hole somewhere, right?
Right.
And so it's very low pressure for her. It's still fun for her to be able to compete. She's not going to beat me, but still fun saying, oh, I scored 500 points. So I can see the appeal for it, but I don't love TopGolf.
So that's so interesting because I feel the same way. And I think most people that I've spoken to, not a scientific poll by any stretch of the imagination, so more anecdotal, but most people that I know that are avid golfers don't love TopGolf. But if you think about it as like the equivalent to bowling, then you're like, oh yeah, it makes sense, right? A lot of people will go, they don't have to be good at it. They have a good time, good food, whatever it may be. I live 5 minutes from a TopGolf. And I've gone, I think, once since it's opened. So I feel the same way as you. But interesting that Callaway, which paid, I think, like $2 billion or something for the TopGolf brand for a majority stake, sold their majority ownership stake to a private equity firm at a loss.
Almost like a 50% loss.
And now Callaway is going back to being Callaway, which is, for me, it's this really interesting kind of dynamic because they're opening their 100th location, or they just opened their 100th location.
Wow, did they really?
Yeah, I think in Texas. It's like the TopGolfs that I have been to, with the exception of, I think, one in like the outskirts of Miami that we went to after
your bachelor
party. Sorry?
Wasn't it your bachelor party?
Wait, was it my bachelor? No. So yeah, actually, I think it was the same one. We went for my bachelor party too, now that I think about it. No, but we also went for a different friend's bachelor party. That one was empty. But otherwise, I feel like every TopGolf I go to is always crowded, always busy. But they're still apparently losing money. They're not doing that well financially, to the point they wanted to divest it. And then for myself, and this is why I wanted to know your opinion with TopGolf, or how you think about it, is I never have a strong desire to go. And when I do go, the only thing that I really think about is like, God, this is really expensive for an overglorified driving range. Yeah. So is that how you feel about it too?
Oh, absolutely. So I recently went for someone's birthday party. So I end up going when it's either a birthday party or it's like an event, or it's just one of those like filler activities to do when you're out of town. So I go to TopGolf more when I'm out of town from LA than I go in LA. The two places I go is when I go to Vegas. Like, I think I've gone to TopGolf like 3-4 times. Right. And then when I go visit my brother in Phoenix, they have one in Scottsdale, and I think we went like twice. And so it's 6 times there. I went with you for your bachelor party in Miami once. And then I went to TopGolf in LA once, and so for a birthday party. So it's definitely more an entertainment. You get to eat the food, you hit a few swings, but I don't go there with the purpose of like practicing. Although I heard a lot of people do. I heard a lot of people go to TopGolf off hours.
Yes.
To practice. So in the mornings and early afternoons. And I recently read a instructor on TopGolf that did $250,000 in lessons. Yeah. In 1 year. And so I guess people do go there to get better, but I personally don't.
I think the last time I went was for a family friend, or one of my wife's friends was having a birthday. So there was a bunch of us there, maybe like 6 or 7 of us. And I was the only person that golfs regularly. Like, for a moment, I kind of imagined, like, is this what it must feel like for not a professional bowler, but like, somebody who's like bowling in their 200s that goes with a bunch of amateurs that are like putting it in the gutter. It's almost like there's not like a same level of fairness or enjoyment in the competition, right? And people who are like, they don't know anything about golf, they can have fun too, right? And I love that they can and enjoy golf. But for me, it was like, then it's like, oh, how do I do this? Roy, help me with my swing, or take a look at this. I don't know if that's a typical experience for a lot of people versus, I think even if we went with just our friends, if we ended up at a TopGolf and it was all golfers, then maybe it's a little different, because maybe then I feel like the level of competition would be so high,
Sure.
right? Where it's not just like a generic group of people that you're there with, where that might be interesting to do that, right? It's like maybe we don't have time for a full round or something like that. But even then, if we are going to go with that group and spend that amount of time and that amount of money, let's just go play a round of golf.
Curious, when you go to like a bowling, like just like for fun, right? And there's that one guy who brings his own bowling ball and his own bowling shoes. Be honest, what do you think of it?
I don't know, because I used to own my own bowling shoes and bowling ball, and I used to actually bring them when I would go bowling.
So you were him. So for me, I'm like, he's so extra. Like, this is just for fun. Why are you bringing your own stuff? But when I go to TopGolf, I want to bring my own bag. I don't want to use their like wiggly clubs, right?
Yeah.
I hit everything draws when I go to TopGolf.
Right. Because it's so whippy.
Yeah. And I'm like, I never hit draws. And so I want to bring my own clubs, but I'll be honest, I'm embarrassed to bring my own clubs. And so I never do.
I agree.
So because I don't have my clubs, it's not real golf to me. It's not even like real clubs that you can buy off the shelf, right?
Okay. So I think I have the solution to this, which is you bring your own clubs, but you put them in a Sunday bag. You don't bring your full bag, and so you don't bring all your clubs, right?
Yeah.
You maybe bring like your odd number irons, one wedge, and like your driver, and that's it. Throw them all in a Sunday bag, one of the ones that like zips up all the way, and that's what you bring. Because for some reason, for me, the fact that I'm not bringing my actual bag, that I'm just bringing this small thing that's like very portable, makes it feel significantly less extra and less douchey, so to speak.
Sure.
But I agree with you. Like, I don't want to play their clubs. I don't know. I feel like I end up trying to like adjust to their club, and then it's like I have to undo whatever I was just doing for the night later, the next time I go play golf. So what you're saying is we're not going to go to TopGolf for your birthday this year.
I will never like say no when I'm invited to a TopGolf thing, especially for like an event. But like, for example, if you had the choice to take me to TopGolf for my birthday or to take me for a round, I would rather go for a round, and I'm sure you would also pick, let's go play a round, right?
Yeah.
And they take, I mean, obviously TopGolf is a little bit quicker, but it's not that much quicker. Going back to the sale though, why did they lose half their valuation? Like, what did they think was going to happen? Because you're right. Like, whenever I go to TopGolf, again, in Southern California, Vegas, Scottsdale, there is always a wait list, and it's always packed. And obviously, I don't go in the off hours. I go during peak hours, like dinner time. But I have heard that some of these other TopGolf locations are empty. And so that's probably why, like, they've just expanded so fast, assumed that this entertainment golf industry was just going to continue to boom exponentially. Because, right now there's around 55 million golfers in the US, and 20 of them have never stepped onto a golf course. And they are entertainment golfers that only go to places like TopGolf. So there is a sizable market, but I guess not enough to support the type of expansion that they had. 100 locations to me is crazy. I'm really curious, because LA by itself only has 2 locations. And LA is the second largest city in the US, population-wise, after New York, right?
Right.
And so I'm like, where are all these locations at for it to have 100 locations?
I think it's more like the suburbs and peripherals, right? So one of the earlier TopGolfs was opened in Edison, New Jersey, which is not too far from where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of a weird place. I don't remember exactly what number it was, but it was really early on. And at that one, it was like for years there was a line and a wait to get in there. But it's out in the burbs, right? So in a lot of ways, it's very densely populated. It's not too far from Rutgers, where I went to college. So there's probably a lot out in the suburbs, like highly densely populated suburbs. There's another one that I know of that I used to drive by all the time for work in Plano, Texas. which is, again, the suburbs-ish of Dallas, right? So out maybe 45 minutes from downtown Dallas. That one less populated versus the other ones that I've seen, but again, fairly frequented. Yeah, it drew a lot of people in. Again, the only one that I've seen that was like relatively empty was the one that we went to for my bachelor party. But yeah, the LA one, again, 5 minutes away. I drive by it. The parking lot is every evening. The parking lot is full, right? Like they almost don't have enough parking. And then I think the new one that opened on the east side of town, that one's also pretty packed too, right?
That place. So I drive by that location every time I go to Costco, and I go to Costco in the middle of the day. I would say it's like half full, but I think they're there practicing. Like it's a lot of people there practicing in the middle of the day because the prices are much cheaper.
Right.
But still, I'm like, it's still more expensive than a range. Why wouldn't you just go to a range? There's a range 10 minutes from there.
I did hear, I don't know if they still do this, but I did hear that you could buy like a membership type of deal where it's like an all you can hit during off hours, like very weird off hours kind of a thing. So it's not like you're buying it bucket by bucket.
That setup exists in so many golf ranges, but not in Southern California. It's like $50 a month. You get 2 large buckets a day. $50 here is like 2.5 range sessions.
That's fair. Although TopGolf is probably the only place that you can play in the evening now that we're in daylight savings.
That's true. But yeah, if their prices went down, maybe I would go more.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Thanks again, everybody, for sticking around with us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow on your favorite podcast platform, or at least on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, check out our Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at TRAQ Golf, TRAQ Golf. That's enough getting off track. Thank you for sticking around. May your mulligans be many and your 3 putts be few.